Hello, good evening, good day.
You can't see it. I know. You're so excited. I love it. It worked.
We have a special guest here today, and I just want to say this is our 101st podcast. And the title of today's podcast is Roger Federer Saves Tennis Again.
Stop it!
Just putting it out there before we put it out there, okay?
Oh no.
You can hate me for it.
That's gonna make all the ATP folks so upset right now. What are you doing?
Well, before I go any further, let me introduce my co-hostesses with the mostesses. And today we have a special guest. So I would introduce my co-hostess first, and then I will have a wonderful welcome for a special guest today. First is Andrine from Solely Tennis Travel. She is home in LA, I believe, right?
Yes, I'm home.
Yeah, she's a lady who flies all over the world. We live vicariously through her.
I'm grounded for the moment.
Okay. Your definition of grounded is quite different because next thing you know, we'll be like, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm in Chicago.
I'm going to an unexcited
conference.
I'm going to unexcited Minneapolis, St. Paul. So that's where I'm going.
Be careful.
Cold. Yeah, exactly.
And we have the Kato Killing of podcast, Janina, who might be a little bit tipsy because I'm sure I saw a mojito in her hand. And she has not eaten, so we might be into some trouble.
Why you have to tell everybody my business?
This is what we're gonna get her in and out.
And of course, there is Real Me. But today we have a very special guest who just jet set across Europe, got home to England, and she just flew into a seat. And she wanted to tell us all about her exciting adventure. We have Susie.
Hi.
Hello, Susie. Hi. Famously known on Twitter.
I know. Yes. Tell everyone her Twitter name.
It's Pans Reed.
Susie Reed 19.
Yeah, Susie Reed. Does it mean anything, Susie, or you just love the name combo?
My name, Susie. That's my name.
No. The Reed. I was like, oh,
Dude.
Okay.
She's my long lost
No
sister.
cover-ups. No cover-ups. It's all real.
Look at you. I'm really who I am on Twitter. I love it.
So tell us about your fabulous
fake news here. All real news.
I think we spell our names different, but we can still be sisters, Susie. I'm a Reed as well.
Oh, I love it. Definitely. Read together.
So, Susie, tell us about the ticket purchasing piece, because that seemed to have been a chaotic thing for folks. Did you get tickets right away for Laver Cup?
It was tough. We got these back when it launched in, I think it was February, and they only launched with a 5-session deal. So you basically had to go in and hang on, and you could only purchase for 5 whole sessions. You couldn't do a day at a time.
Wow.
And it took forever. People were frantic. But in the end, I got them, and I have to say that the price was not that bad. It was like $230 all of the 5 sessions. Which I don't know whether they can keep those prices. I hope they can keep those prices like that in Chicago, because actually it was totally and utterly sold out. Every single session was sold out.
During that
which is incredible. I don't know how many it held. Maybe it held like 15,000 people. I think it was smaller than the one they're going to hold in Chicago, I think, which is going to be the size of the US Open Stadium.
Yeah, Chicago's going to be 23,000 or so.
Where are they holding it in Chicago? They've said what the venue is? Is it at
City Center?
The basketball arena. Okay.
Is that the city? Is that the basketball arena? Is that what that is? City Center?
Yeah, the City Center where the Bulls play.
Yeah, because
United
actually,
Center or something.
Yeah,
is that Michael Jordan's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the connection with Roger, I think, the whole basketball thing.
Yeah, I think
actually,
the
Prague venue for me was perfect. It was not a flashy venue. There were no kind of like, there were the sponsors there, the whole Mercedes, the Rolex, the whole thing, but there weren't sort of like photographs of celebrities, interviews with celebrities every 5 minutes. There wasn't constant advertising. It was all about the tennis, which I really, really liked. And okay, we kind of like got Rod Laver drummed into us constantly about, you know, the whole kind of calendar slam and everything, but it was about tennis. And I really, really hope that Chicago keeps it that way. I don't want to be inundated with.
Well, you know that America is extra, so don't count on that.
I say that.
You know what?
That's ticket prices to go up, though. I want the real fans in there, because it was really about real tennis fans, this whole gig. It was great.
That was the curiosity. That's what I'm so curious about, is what part of Laver Cup is sort of enduring from city to city and what's going to be allowed to change. Do you know what I mean? Like, do they pull the same organizers in so that you have like the courts are always supposed to be black, or do you know what I mean? Like, are those elements going to remain the same? That's the open question.
That's a really good question. I mean, I think some of the things that they really got right, I thought the scoring was absolutely ingenious, because it meant there were no dead rubbers. Even if everybody had won all the matches on day one, it didn't matter, because if with the 2 points and then the 3 points, it meant that there were no dead rubbers on the final day. And I know that Ben Rothenberg has already had a go at the Davis Cup about that on Twitter, saying, hey, come on, Davis Cup, this is at least something you can do so we don't have a dead third day. But that was a fantastic system. And actually it meant that it was, you know, live right to the final, the death, really. They could have lost easily.
I'm not so sure my heart could deal with that kind of scoring.
I had Team World to win the doubles. I
think they had a really strong shot. Well, the other thing, I saw someone that said that they thought the first day felt lighter because people didn't really take to the scoring and understand that by day 3, it could all completely flip. So I think Christopher
I don't
Clary
know. That's an interesting point. I think that has something to do with the fact that Europe won so easily on day 1. I think that was partly the problem, that they won so easily. Although actually, I mean, there was that fantastic match between was it Thiem and Isner on day 1?
Can I tell you, I think this might be the shocking upset of Laver Cup all in all, is that Isner played compelling matches in the entire time.
Oh my God.
I mean, yes, you shady little bitch.
Look. Let me just say.
Okay, I'll tell you the shady thing of the whole Laver Cup was actually that the Americans, people took them to their hearts.
Yes,
the biggest roar of support at the end. Oh my God, Jack Sock was like, "Whoa, hero."
Why do you think they fell for Jack Sock? What was so compelling? Was it his performance in the doubles? Like, what was
relationship? Partly the relationship with Nick, and then partly the fact that he actually played outstanding doubles, and the fact that he took Nadal to the wire.
Oh yes, that match.
And then graciously lost.
I'm going to tell you guys something. Okay, so, you know, me being me and busy as all hell, I didn't see any of it hardly at all. But for the first time in my tennis watching life, I am actually excited about watching replays when I know the outcome. Because it sounds like it was really, really good. Really good.
Well, you know, Susie, let me ask you a question, because, you know, right about now, there was something about Laver Cup that just completely messed up my emotions, because I felt for Berdych. And for a moment, I was just
oh my God, we all felt for Berdych.
I should be with Team World. And I was just like, why am I backing these magma men? Like, what's going on there? Like, I was just like, I'm only here for Nick, Kokkinakis, and I'm just like, oh my God, Sock might actually win this match. And they might need to win a point. But I mean, were the fans there? Were there a lot of Czech supporters there? Because
Berdych made you care. He made you care. I love it.
I was wondering, because I felt like, to me, Berdych looked like he had a party at his house, and then everybody showed up for everybody else. It was his birthday, but no one was concerned that it was his birthday, because I don't know if there were a lot of Czech local fans there.
There were quite a few, actually. Yeah, there were a lot. Yeah.
I'm curious.
Up in the top part.
Right. You know, he doesn't hear well.
That's the question, though. That's the other outstanding question: is who bought tickets? Like, how many? Because obviously for them, that's important too, right? That you have tourists coming into the city. That's just as important.
I mean,
but still,
I had a kind of new appreciation for Tomasz. Apart from the fact that I love the fact that I heard his name pronounced correctly for the first time.
Say it. What is it? Tomasz?
It's got a smooch to the end of it.
Tomasz. I would totally kiss him. I mean, we can smooch and say his name. He is hot.
Oh, Tomasz.
Absolutely. I mean, he failed miserably on the tennis. He and Sam Perry. somewhere in a beer cellar, like drowning their sorrows. They totally got the wins against those two.
Which is, you know what? Which is actually somewhat sad because of Team World, you would pick Querrey for being more solid than he was. He's the one that's actually doing well relative to, just in general in tennis land, right? But he was horrendous.
Yeah.
Oh God, was he?
Querrey and Burdick were like not at the party.
They didn't anything. Ooh.
Asks in Roger's love. Roger has this thing about Big John that I kind of don't quite get. But
it's because John loves him so much.
Roger has John friends all the time.
John loves him, and Roger gives him the love right back.
Let's just accept that.
Well,
Roger has two friends.
No, maybe it's the wrestling love. You know, they talk wrestling.
I have decided that Isner is pathetic and Roger's being nice.
That's cruel. I'm not sure about that. But Isner did well for himself. What he lost that match against team that he should have won, I thought. Yeah. But then he made up for it by beating Rafa down in the wire.
And he was great.
It was a good match. He played very well.
Rafa. It was a good match.
See, Janina, this is what we're talking about.
Europe they kind of screwed up a bit to Europe because they didn't really have any really great doubles players.
That's true.
I don't agree with John.
Wait, what were you saying?
The greatest doubles player in the world, but he was certainly the greatest doubles player in Prague, as I said on my tweet. Players.
Yeah.
They need
that is
players.
True.
Going forward.
When you look at the team, you realize, you guys don't have any experience playing with each other at all.
Yeah.
And
Zverev can't volley to save his life. Team can't volley. Hilarious. But Janina, just going back to your point about the replays, one of the things that was really thrilling and that really worked was having this 10-point tiebreak for the singles matches.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
So can you
all the final sets
onto the ATP tour? People look at the ATP. Look at it. Learn from it. Every point was so intense in those 10-point tiebreaks. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I'm excited. I'm surprised.
But what was interesting is that many of the sets went to tiebreakers, and eventually, even when they didn't get to the third set, many of the sets, there was no real blowout.
So
very few blowouts throughout the tournament.
Everything was the best of three.
The only blowout was Querrey against Rog.
Yeah. It was best of 3 for everything, and
there was a
match tie breaks like you have in doubles for the singles and the doubles.
So what was the scoring for a tiebreak that wasn't the final set, just the regular 1st to 7 win by 2?
Okay. 1st to 7, everything was pretty much 1st to 7, and then that third set was, and you know what, Susie's right, that created so much tension because by that point in time you're just so good, and also because it also saved you time. Like if you had a solid 2-setter in terms of hours, then to come to that third set tiebreak, it just was like, all right, here we go.
For me in general,
well, you know what? I tell you something. It actually worked well for Nick Kyrgios because that body would not have held up for 3 sets.
Yeah,
true.
Wouldn't have held up. That's what I was watching. I was just like, you people are doing
better than them to play. They played a lot of sexy tennis as a result. There was no kind
true. Yes, that is true.
Every point had to be kind of like a sexy point, and Kyrgios really delivered on that. And his stature has gone up.
He knows how to deliver.
But I liked how.
But you know what, though? I think this is I think this is just such a great atmosphere for Nick. It's all the things that Nick enjoys about sports, I think, which is the teamwork aspect of it, the camaraderie, the companionship on the bench. You know what I mean? It's not lonely out there, except for when you're playing tennis.
And it's like you said the other day, Andreen, they get a chance to chill out and spend time with each other. The tour is so exhausting, as you said, and so mentally draining. And this was like competitive, but fun,
Yeah.
High five.
And also it's the only time it was the only time where they actually, except for the America boys, where they can actually.
Hello?
Sorry. What did you say? We lost you.
I usually there at a tournament.
Real. Repeat yourself. We lost me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying that Team Europe, basically a lot of the time.
Hello.
Yeah, you're here. Yeah.
He's
Oh, I've
back.
been saying a lot of time.
Yeah, he's back. Just repeat what you said, Reels. What was different about it?
Gotta love technology.
Gone.
Sorry,
He'll be back. He'll
All
be
right.
back.
But what other things did you observe about what did you like about the experience? Or what? Let's talk about what you hated. What was sort of like the poor
See
elements
each
of
other
it?
and sort of like
Rails, we couldn't hear anything you were saying.
We're moving on.
Yeah, so we're just asking Susie some stuff. Susie, tell us what did you not like about the whole weekend? What didn't work?
Not a lot, really. Actually,
Really?
I thought there was a lot of repetition. There was a lot of repetition between the matches and the changeovers about the whole legacy of Rod.
Oh, really?
Hey ho, they'll work. They'll make it more interesting. And,
Did you
we
get
got shown
tired of it?
video every 5 seconds about. Yeah, I'm tired of that. You know,
Oh.
real fans know about Rod Laver, and by the end of the first match, the casual fan had known about Rod.
It was a Rod Laver education.
I'm like, okay, you know, show
And
me
the favorite
Rafa's
bit is
pants
that-
again, you know.
Rod Laver didn't care. Rod Laver looked like he didn't care one bit that he was there. He looked like he was just like at home doing nothing.
He always
He's
does.
79.
He always looks like that.
He's like, give me my gin. Give me my gin. I need to sit. I've watched 8 hours of this match. You know?
I know. He's like, I hope I'm not expected to show up for all of
He
it.
wanted a mojito from Janina. I like the black court. I like the lights. I like the announcement. They never start on time. That's the only thing I have. But that's the same with ATP. It's the same with slams. It's the same with everything. Nothing starts on time. But hey ho, what can you do?
So, Susie, I've heard that there was some tension around Laver Cup. What did you on the
There's
ground?
a lot
what
of tension around.
Yeah, what is the
Cup.
tension? Could you lay that out
Yeah,
for us?
so-
What you sense?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that it's very much not looked at favorably by the ATP because they don't like the fact that it diverts attention away from the ATP tournaments which are going on that week, which actually happen to be Metz and St. Petersburg, which, okay, they're very small 250s, but at the end of the day, they need their press, they need their publicity, they need the media attention. So there was that. There's the fact also that the ITF are not happy about it because it's literally immediately after the Davis Cup weekend. So they feel that's competition. It's another team event. But, you know, I don't know if I don't care about that, actually, because the ATP and the ITF, for me, both need bombs up their bottoms in terms of moving tennis forward.
I love
What
you.
do you guys think?
I agree. And I think it's gonna.
This is a new event. As someone said on Twitter today, I think it was Andre Gomez, actually, old French Open champion. He said everything starts just as an event. So get behind it. The WTA could do worse than look at that model and think, hey, let's do that with our ladies. That would be fantastic.
Right.
That team
Yeah,
event
instead
for
of having a
ladies.
cruise. Oh, no cruise, please.
Oh, let's have Maria and Serena on the same team.
Could you imagine?
Well, unfortunately, no, right? The Europe thing. But somebody was,
But you couldn't bet all of America would be advocating that she's American because she lives in America, right? Watch and see.
Stop.
But,
Get in for that.
no. But you know, the thing about it that I think is interesting.
I say good for them for stirring it up. I do not understand why there is still, after 20 years, there is this love-hate relationship that the press and certain, you know, tennis associations like the ATP and the ITF, this love-hate relationship they have with Roger. You know, at the end of the day, crikey, he's laying down legacies left, right, and center for all of them, and they still have this kind of tension with him. I put it down to jealousy, straightforward jealousy.
I like it. I agree.
Well, also a bit of a love-hate thing because you need him at the same time, and then you resent needing him, right? You resent the person that helped grow your sport, and because you understand that there's a timed factor on it, right? You want to be able to replicate Federer, but you can't. So then there's this sense of urgency. It's similar to what happened, I think, in Basel, really, with that.
So you know
director.
what? This is what I want to know. How was the atmosphere? How did it feel? How much did you love it? How much did you hate it watching Roger and Rafa play doubles together?
The doubles. That's insane.
That's such a cool question. I actually found it quite difficult to root for Rafa on his own kind of thing. I found it very difficult to be going, come on, Rafa, come come on, screaming for him. That wasn't in my psyche. But actually, when they played doubles together, him a bit more. I got his tennis a bit more because I don't like his style of tennis at all. But he's a pretty good doubles player. I mean,
he's an excellent doubles player. He really is.
He really is. Really quick at the net. Really great reactions. Everything. I did like it. I had.
You sound like you're ashamed to say it. She's like, oh shit, I like it.
I'm ashamed to say it. That's what I mean. It was kind of like a curious thing. But I put on Twitter, I was like, this is a kind of like I was there moment, isn't it?
Well, because it was also a surprise, right? Not everybody knew they were going to get doubles that day. That's also the thing, Janita. Imagine showing up and finding out that you're going to get that because they don't release the schedule until the day of.
I mean, I think that all of us here have seen Roger and Rafa play each other on opposite sides of the net, right? We've all witnessed that. Yeah. We know how electric it is and how intense it can be. So I was just curious, like, what is it like when they're playing together, when they're teammates, and you got to root for both of them when usually you're like steadfast on I hate one of you, you know?
Let me tell you, Janina, the love is real. You have got to look some of the gifts that have gone out. Rafa's love for Roger, it's like, get a room, boys. Get a room.
Feliciano Lopez and Mark Lopez are gonna be mad.
Hey, Jelly.
They are gonna be mad. Pico is.
I'm really excited to watch it.
I know. He has a television show in Argentina right now. I think he's on some TV show, so he might be distracted a little bit for now. But
well, you know, Federer said Rafa is the very first person that signed on to do it. So that was
was he?
Yeah, like the very first person that came on once Federer, the whole thing was kind of proposed. So Rafa was like, yeah.
Okay. And when Roger won that final point, Rafa was the first person to leap into Roger's arms.
I was like, it was
I did see a picture of that. It was a little
much.
weird.
It was too much. You know what?
It
wasn't even too much. Did you see him from the sidelines when Federer was screaming in the tie break? It was ridiculous.
Look, Rafa, Susie, could you see Rafa where you were sitting?
Yeah.
On the bench, because I swear, had I been in that arena, I would have walked down and punched him in the face. It's like, boy, you need to sit down. He was crazy.
He was really into it.
Intense.
He was so into it. He was the cheerleader.
But isn't that what makes it special?
No, Rafa was
what
intense.
Made it special. That's what
Rafa was intense from the jump. Everybody saw this as a little bit of exhibition. Rafa was taking this very
nobody did. Because Federer did not want it to be perceived as an exhibition, because if you're going to interrupt the calendar with something that's going to feel exhibition heavy, that's not, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's also part of the rationale for why they keep pressing it as not an exhibition. And I think actually Rafa's intensity helped that narrative a lot.
Oh yeah,
because
it was very intense. And
you know, like he wanted every point.
The contrast between the benches was really cool, actually. The European bench was all kind of like a mixture of kind of Latino passion and kind of like, you know, Swedish cool. And then you had the dare I say it, the frat boys on the other side. With all their kind of like grenades and their slam dunks and their diving or whatever they were doing. You know, that was a great contrast. That really was great.
So you could see the bench reaction the whole time, because that seemed to me that was such an important part of the whole show. Was catching the bench's reaction to everything happening. Okay, cool.
Could you hear the coaches' conversation when they went to sit down, Susie?
No, I couldn't hear that. You could only hear that if you were watching it live on the website when McEnroe was letting off his F-bombs and calling Nadal a son of a bitch.
That was interesting.
That's all on there, Janina. That's all in there for you.
That was what was interesting for me, because when Team Europe went to sit down, they were actually talking about point construction. What's happening in the match? What you can do different. What John McEnroe was doing was, you got this. You got this. You know, you're in the locker room and everyone is saying you're going to be a loser, dude, and you can do this. So he could offer Sock nothing.
Yes.
He can offer
But Sock said it worked for him. Like
it worked for him, but
because it worked for him in terms of like the kind of pumping up he needed.
Yes.
He needed that aggression. And
so
that
what you're really saying is that McEnroe fulfilled his coaching duties and he did a good job.
No. But here's the problem.
He did.
But here's the issue. Here's the issue that I had with that point when it comes to Sock. Yeah, you pumped Sock up, but you never told Sock what he was doing right. And then when the situation got down to the wire, what you should continue doing. So when Sock got down to the wire, Sock got lost.
That's true.
And took that match away.
Yeah, but see, part of it was he needed a second person in the ear, right? So he needed to be convinced that he could do it, which is definitely what McEnroe did. I think McEnroe completely turned Sock around in the Nadal match. But then, then you needed a strategist to say, okay, and this is what you're doing. Jim Courier probably in that moment would have been like, helpful. Here you do this now.
No, he brought his brother who just sat on the fucking bench and was a bro all throughout the match. I don't know who think Patrick McEnroe can contribute anything to tennis. But you know what?
I think it's
Patrick McEnroe
he's the USTA.
He stopped his brother getting out of control.
Yes, probably. Well, Susie, I suddenly realized because I was looking at all the backers for it, and that's when I realized the USTA was such a firm backer because I kept seeing Katrina Adams in the background, and I was like, "Why is Katrina there?"
Yeah,
she's like front and center.
Yep.
And I guess this is a USTA Tennis Australia.
The people who really controlled it were Tennis Australia.
Really?
Marianne Beavers told me that Tennis Australia were the big guns.
Oh, really?
So
I wonder what
the players.
What do you think? Sorry.
Did they get points, or was this, essentially an exhibition, or were there any points involved for the players? Just money.
Just money.
Just money, and at the fact that it's a new team trophy. So in a way, it was quite interesting. If you look at Paul McNamee, you can his Twitter feed, you can kind of compare it with the start of the Hopman Cup. So it's a new trophy, it's a new team event, but there are no points. But the Hopman Cup has actually come back into fashion because more and more players are beginning to do it. So, I think the Laver Cup has longevity. They have 2 years, I think, to kind of feed off the whole Federer thing. Yeah. And I think that what Roger and Rafa have to be very careful about, and if they obviously keep Borg and McEnroe on side, is getting the mix of the teams absolutely right. So you have people who can then take it forward. So say Sasha
they get it right
team
this
can
time,
take
you
it
think?
forward, say a Sock. I don't know. It's interesting to see what will happen.
Do you think they got it right this time?
I think if you look at it from a normal kind of rankings point of view, I don't think Burdick would have been there, but he was there because it was in Prague, and Prague delivered big time. One from Chicago. I don't know who's placed from Chicago. Anna Ivanovic. She can
no one.
Wild card.
maybe they can do a women's event and Sloan will be there representing Kamal or something. Who knows? But
yeah,
actually,
I think
it's a good idea to highlight some of those things. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Chicago flavor and what the tennis story is going to be for Chicago.
Well, they'll probably sell Chicago not as an urban area in terms of like, but they'll probably sell it as a Midwest area, and because most of those boys, Nebraska, Sock, etc. They're from that region. So I
hope people won't be disappointed when they arrive because Chicago is indeed a very urban area.
I mean, my final comment on it is that if I was a player, if I was a top 20, top 30 player, I would be gunning to get on that team in terms of, the money, but B, the recognition that you get from an event like that over 3 days. The TV coverage was immense.
It was ridiculous.
I would love to know what the global audience was. I mean, every bloody journalist going was out there. Every broadsheet, every blogger, everybody was there.
And you can watch it it via Facebook. The Twitter feed was it. I mean, and I think there were also some innovations just in general. The way they did the cameras on the net. Amazing. That should come to regular tour.
I loved that.
The way they did the scoring
everywhere.
Yeah, the way they did scoring, the way they focused on brought the team up, the graphics, all of it was really like top shelf.
But at the same time, they didn't diminish the game, which is what worries me about this next gen thing. That Janina, that Andreen, when you go, you're going to be seeing a tiebreak at 3-3.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I mean, but the thing is, I'm not fighting all of this because you know what? If it doesn't work, if it's too gimmicky, then it'll change. But you can't
Hopefully.
change the real
Yeah, for
tour.
sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem is which tournament's going to agree to be the guinea pig? You know, most of the time you want to try, everyone says tennis is really like retrograde, but anytime you introduce something new, everyone balks. And so you think to yourself, well, where are you going to make those changes? The only places you can really make changes are things like the World Tour Finals or a Laver Cup or a next gen, you know, because people are trying to find the formula.
And actually, I kind of interesting because I actually do think that the tour has got slightly stale.
Yes.
I think it's become very, very repetitive.
Yes.
And I think that for young players like Nick, who don't necessarily, I always use him as my catalyst, don't necessarily have as much interest in the whole individual history thing. You know, they thrive on change, and for them to slog around doing this bloody 250 in Metz or this bloody 500 in wherever and then a Masters in wherever, they're knackered by it all. And so the Laver Cup for them is like, oh my God, this is so new and refreshing. I want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my only question is really the timing, you know, because it comes right after kind of like a massive event, which is the US Open, you know, which feels like it's a big party anyway. It would be nice if the Laver Cup was maybe during like a fairly sluggish part of the season.
But
I don't know, but I don't know when that is really.
Where? Yeah, where is that?
But here's the thing that worked. Here's the thing I thought that worked for Laver Cup.
Find it.
But it works for Laver Cup because people don't have to wake up in America. People don't have to wake up 11 o'clock at night to go watch tournament in WT in Asia. And they don't have to like crazy to watch Fonini and Benoit play a final. Like, that's not really interesting in St. Petersburg because the top guys are not going to be in Metz and they're not going to be in St. Petersburg anyway. So I think Laver Cup works in America.
Yeah, I think that
you get up in the morning on the weekend and you are watching top quality tennis.
I mean, I guess the question
there's no chance of people falling off.
I guess that's the issue, right? Because while they're upset that Federer and whatever are doing this thing during this time and they're losing out from Metz or St. Petersburg, the top guys don't traditionally play those tournaments anyway. So you know, so it's almost like you are still getting tennis coverage. It's not the kind of coverage that you'd want. But I mean, I think Cincy Tennis posted the one thing I think is that tennis won this weekend. You know, there are outside people who were talking about the Rafa doubles. I mean, you're not going to get a Fed Rafa doubles on the tour. It's just not going to happen. This was like a venue for this to happen.
Oh my God, what if they loved it and they do it?
No.
Nope. Rafa is too competitive and he's going to be like, I need Mark Lopez by my side.
I think it's interesting that you just said that because my initial take would be that Roger would be the one to say, I'm not playing doubles.
No, actually,
I think Rafa would do it in a heartbeat.
Rafa's the one that has always offered it, and I think he's the one that actually enjoyed it. And but I think for Fed, I think it actually I think playing doubles and playing on a team, I think you actually give a lot away about your game. I really do.
Oh yeah,
and we know that Federer is super private.
When Federer was thinking no,
she was shit.
Yeah. You know, I mean, like I was thinking, you know, I mean, I will say though, the cap of this event for me was Rafa coaching Federer through the Nick Kyrgios match.
Oh God!
Did he?
Don't bring it up, please.
Yes!
Oh,
please! Don't
I
bring it
cannot
up.
wait to
that
watch.
That was driving me insane. There was
Rafa saying. But was it good? Was it good coaching?
No, it was funny. So they asked him immediately. Did you hear this part, Susie? Immediately after Fed lost the first set. So Rafa's like, I think Federer has to play aggressive.
He said, I think you need to be more aggressive with the forehand, no?
Exactly. But then I was like, well, honey, have you seen what that court is doing to Federer's forehand? Nothing.
Exactly.
It did nothing.
I mean, where was your aggression versus John Isner when you were serving?
No, Rafa tried a lot in that match. Isner was playing great. And I think Rafa was just a step slow.
Susie, how did the match how did the matches look live on that black court? On TV, it plays out really well.
It looked blacker. It was much blacker in real life. The TV grays off.
You see the ball really well.
Yeah, you could see the ball fantastically well, and all the colors popped fantastically.
Mhm.
Even Rafa's shirt that wasn't in the right blue that he wore for the first 2 days.
Well, I
was
heard,
outraged by that.
you know, the players complained
the right blue.
initially about the lighting. I think Isner said that initially. I think the lighting wasn't right. Their eyes had to adjust to it. But I think that's just always indoor. Because I think people complain a little bit about that at World Tour Finals too. Like you can't.
Well,
see the ball
but
as
World
well.
Tour Finals is also a little bit darker. You notice that on TV, like the overall atmosphere it's just darker there. It doesn't seem to be as bright as a traditional indoor setting. So
yeah, that's true. You're creating a whole mood because there are all these graphics that play around the court.
Yeah,
did it feel intimate, Susie?
They laid that from scratch. Although I think actually that venue is used for the Davis Cup actually in the Czech Republic. I think.
Did it feel intimate?
Yeah, it was. It wasn't too big, and that's what I'm worried about with Chicago. Is this going to be so big?
It will.
Because
it's what we do.
The US Open is not intimate.
No, it's not intimate at all. It's just what we do. And you know, I mean, what you hope they'll do is maybe they'll carton off some sections.
Right. Maybe not sell the top.
Not sell the very top.
But of course they will.
Tighten it. But they'll try.
It's all about money, right?
I know.
I mean, of course they're good. But you know what? Here's the thing, though. It sounds like a lot, like 20-something thousand. But in a basketball arena, usually the way it's set up, it feels much more intimate than the actual numbers represent. So it might work. It might work.
Remember, a basketball court is larger than a tennis court anyway. So
yes, but you know, just typically the way that the arenas are set up, they don't go super, super high. And you do have the Jumbotron in the middle of the court hanging from the ceiling, which I would assume that they would utilize. And even when you are sitting up in those nosebleed seats, you don't necessarily feel like you're that far away from the action. The NBA does a really good job of setting up arenas. So maybe if they do sell out the entire city center, it might be okay. It might be okay.
Plus, I mean, I don't know, because it's a smaller court, and plus basketball is a game of giants. You're playing massive men around the court running up and down. So you kind of feel like I'm not really watching ants.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I'm going to put it out there now.
I think I just have to hope that it continues to be the same as it was. It was great. Everything about it worked. And I think also having someone like Sasha Zverev, he's like the heir apparent. You know, he comes on, he's got that cockiness that we may or may not like at the moment, but he says all the right things. You know, he talked about the sponsors, he talked about the old guys, he talked about learning from them, he talked about the
Federer intro was that was great. Having each player introduce each other was great.
Yeah.
Well, Tony has already said, let's go to Chicago. I'm going to try to make that happen. There's no reason why I can't get to Chicago.
I booked a hotel already.
Shut up.
Are you serious?
The flights are cheap.
The flights are
cheap. Are
you
serious?
The flights from Cleveland to Chicago are cheap. I'm staying with Andrew.
Oh my God.
I've already booked the hotel.
And you bitches didn't tell me. Susie, I'm staying with you, okay? Susie, next year we're doing the podcast together. We are leaving these.
Although
I can't believe it.
You know what though? Chicago is a great city. I mean, Chicago has like crazy things going on in terms of people's mentality about it, but it's like an awesome American city. Great food, great culture, so much to see.
I think shopping.
And where it's going to be held. I think, and even the Anna Ivanovic connection will be played up, I'm sure.
Oh,
I think it's and of course, and the Michael Jordan thing. I mean, that whole thing is going to be massaged very
I'm ready for it. I am ready.
Yeah, right after the US Open.
I'm ready for new. I'm ready. I'm with Janina. I'm ready for newness. This really did make me realize that even the World Tour Finals don't excite me anymore.
Yeah, because it needs to change.
The last couple of years, they haven't been flat.
Great. Yeah, and did you notice
the matches are not good? The
doubles is the best thing on
the venue. Everything needs to be shaken up.
Yes, whoever organized this event should go. I mean, even though the people who did the World Tour Finals, they were invited, but they didn't show up. I think it's sad that they didn't, because actually all of the elements.
Wait! They were invited to be a part of the Laver Cup?
No, they were invited to attend and, you know, be there.
God,
and
they're nasty.
They said no. But, you know, that's sad because in many ways, the Laver Cup owes a lot to the World Tour Finals in the way that it sort of packages itself and puts itself together. And I think there was a freshness to the Laver Cup that I think that World Tour Finals should learn from. Get rid of the blue.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, get rid of the blue lights. I'm so over the blue lights. Yeah, shake it up.
You know what I imagine? Susie, you mentioned earlier that, you know, that there's a tension between ITF and ATP and Roger Federer. What I imagine happened is that Roger has his own opinions, and he might have suggested these things to these people a lot earlier on because he was on the player council. And when he was on the player council, he was able to move a lot of things that was basically stuck in the trenches and never got anywhere. And he was able to do a lot, and then he was just done and tired. So maybe this is the problem, is that Roger might have suggested this to them, and they were like, nope, we want to do things our own way. And Roger said, all right, then I'll do my own thing. I got enough money and clout now.
Yeah.
So
possible.
Well, I think part of that is probably right. I think part of it was waiting for the right moment. I think waiting for when he had the clout and the right moment. And I think, you know, he has a lot of pull with, I think, Tennis Australia. I think there's a lot of affection there with Craig Tiley in particular, because Craig was there today making,
that's great,
you know, waving at everybody. I do think there's an element of truth in what you say, actually, Wills, that Roger, the moment was right.
But also, you know, the other thing is maybe with Federer's attention sort of off on this, and then you have the new player council, which is Andy Murray and all of that. Maybe they'll inject some life, because you know how Djokovic wanted the World Tour Finals to move out of London and all of that. I mean, maybe there will be some new directions taken there that would intrigue, you know, the next generation of fans that are coming into the sport and some of the older ones. I don't know, you know.
I think it should leave London. I think it's time to leave London, actually, the World Tour Finals. You know, we've become so, I mean, we've all talked about it on Twitter. We've become so insulated in the bubbles that we live in. And, you know, I go to the Czech Republic, and yes, loads and loads of us had traveled out there. But, you know, not everybody was coming from other countries or wherever. There were a lot of locals there. Because I traveled I went on the underground every day to go there on the metro.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there were local people there who had got their tickets. You could buy them actually on the day on Viagogo for obviously slightly more than the cover price. But, you know, there was a hunger for tennis. And Roger kind of said that, you know, he hopes it's made more people hungry having this event. And I think it's good to move things around.
The other thing about with Chicago. That's one of the reasons why they decided to go to Chicago, because they haven't had tennis there, I think, apparently, since
a long time.
20 years, over 20 years. I think that's also one of the reasons why I thought IPTL was successful in what it was attempting initially, is to take tennis into markets that they don't typically have access to.
But the problem with IPTL, the only thing that they got wrong with the IPTL is the prices were ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think that didn't help. But I mean, I think you're right. I think the first year of it is great. I don't really want to see this battle that's starting up. Like Justin Gimbelstaub almost suggested it. Like, you know, he said that essentially that Laver Cup threw a gauntlet to Davis Cup, and I don't think there needs to be this kind of competition. It doesn't have to be that way.
Thing, though. It's not the same thing.
It's not. And I actually think that there are lessons to be learned from Laver Cup in terms of just scheduling. Nobody hates Davis Cup. The only problem I've ever heard players complain about with Davis Cup is the scheduling.
Yeah.
It's a possibility of
totally
other year or something.
The atmosphere, the only thing I felt was a little, watching it on television, you corrected me, Susie, was that I felt Davis Cup had a lot more electric atmosphere.
Sure, because the crowds were more partisan in some way.
Right. But unlike Davis Cup can't put together these kind of teams.
Exactly.
Right.
So as a fan, I am telling you, my neighbors probably thought I was crazy. I was cursing up a storm. Even I was like, I mean, Susie, you said Burditch made you care.
I love it.
Burditch made me curse. Oh my God. I mean,
that's usual. That's usual.
But I enjoyed it. I mean, because I was home and it's like, oh my God, what time is it? I gotta watch a Laver Cup, because usually
I was surprisingly drawn in, and the coverage helps. TV coverage helps.
Exactly.
Round the clock coverage helps.
that I didn't have to go and stream it on my computer, which I did anyway.
You could,
that it was
but you
available on
didn't
my
have to.
television.
You didn't have to.
That made it so much easier and better. And that I think is really important. WTA, listen up. It got to be on a TV screen, okay?
Susie, give us some final thoughts because I know you're tired, and you know what was your just overall feeling about everything?
Is this me? Are you talking to me? Sorry.
Yes.
Your final thoughts
sorry,
on it.
it's my connection is good. Yeah, and I'm going to go to bed in a minute because I've got to get my daughter back to school tomorrow morning.
So your final thoughts.
My overall, it was new.
Mm-hmm.
It was new and exciting, and it made tennis look fresh again.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, this has been a ridiculous year. It's been a year that nobody expected, the whole Federer thing, but actually, it hadn't have happened. With everyone else injured, tennis could have been very difficult this year. It could have been very, very difficult on the ATP side. I think actually the WTA side's been really exciting. But actually, I went along and I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what was going to happen. And they walked on the court, the black court, the whole team thing, the bench, the coaching, the contrast between the benches, the coaches. It was just, this is different. Let's get into this. This is good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
It's lovely to talk with you all, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes,
enjoyed talking about Benoit crying. That was sad.
We're not talking about that.
We'll get to that.
All right. Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night, Susie.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So, what else do we have on the agenda today?
That was fantastic.
I loved it.
I loved it. Let me just say.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go for it.
I enjoyed watching it, and I haven't enjoyed it. It was so much better than watching a major, really. I have to say.
Ooh,
I mean, I guess it's because
that's major in itself. Wow.
No, because I mean, the format is different though. Because I would never see these group of guys on a bench sitting around cheering for each other in any capacity.
Yep. There's no
side of the
little bit that I did get to see, I loved that. I did.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You know, I think we all are recognizing, and this is the thing. I mean, as tennis wants to continue to grow, it has to figure out a way how to innovate. There's that tension between how to stay traditional and how to innovate.
Well, and that's the problem with every business in the world, right?
It is, right?
So oddly enough, watching you ladies might not know, but I was watching cricket on ESPN.
Oh, God.
And cricket, I know it's this old fuddy-duddy sport that Americans don't even understand. But what cricket has done, cricket changed itself. It sort of added technology into the game, in particular how they score and make decisions, and it sort of made it fresh and alive for fans all around the world. In fact, now they've added new countries, so they have had to change a very old, and you can't get more old and traditional. They have had to adapt to the time. So tennis, you should probably take some lessons there. Really,
but I don't want anybody to be beaten up. I think that the ITF and those folks, I think they have a right to be worried because they're small. These small tournaments do struggle. They do struggle because I think the ATP is, and not just the ATP, but the WTA too. They really thrive with stars, and the game just doesn't have that many stars to go around. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say that it's not important to watch Benoit Paire try to get his first title. Nobody's going to say that. It's obviously important. But there is a tension between how they should have cross things that happen. It's hard. It's difficult.
Well, one of the things that this show does very clearly is that these guys know each other. They see each other all the time, clearly. But there is a friendship and a sort of a relationship that they want to sort of establish, which they can't really do because they're constantly being rival. And also that they cheer for each other in secret anyway. And what could happen and what they should try to do. The thing that I thought didn't work for this Laver Cup was that all of the interviews per se was so wah. There was no real
tennis
on the bench. But when a mic got in front of them, they were like, wah. And to me, I needed to see some of that, that would be, and they can also cross market. So hey, so you're not it'd be like, Andy Murray could put out a tweet, "Oh my God, I'm watching mitts right now, even though I'm not there." They don't have any of that.
Right.
So
Well,
like,
I mean, I think Tennis Channel tries to do that with Center Court. I think they could probably push that envelope more so that it feels like it's surrounding you more, so that you feel like more surrounded by all the things that are happening. So that even though people are tuning in for Laver Cup, and they did tremendously, you could use some of the downtime to cover what's happening in Metz and cover what's happening in St. Petersburg, so that you use the popularity of whatever is going on at that moment
to reach out to the less popular stuff, to make people aware. You are absolutely right.
That could have easily happened, because there are moments, and because that's the other thing too, right? Because even during like the breaks, right? Like the breaks where Susie, like they keep repeating the Laver Cup legacy. Why wouldn't you show a scene from this is the end of the final, the final game point at, in St. Petersburg. You could use that. You can also show, you know what I mean? There's no reason why you have to be captive to the same.
There's a reason. There's a reason, a very real reason why when you're watching something on ESPN, there's a constant ticker all the time at the bottom, letting you know what's going on in the rest of the world. There's a reason for that. Pay attention, people.
And also,
I don't think the segmentation needs to happen, which is why I'm not encouraging this competition. Like everything grows together. The more people, if anyone came and watched Laver Cup only this weekend and fell in love with any of those players, the other tournament the player is going to is going to get an extra
exactly.
eye.
Because Dominic Thiem would have been at one of those tournaments right now. And you just gave him some exposure.
But Sock made some new fans, so maybe somebody's gonna say, "Where's Sock going next?"
It ain't me, but I mean, somebody else.
Regardless of that, but you know what I mean. Like somebody, I feel
this
like
was an opportunity to grow the sport.
It's to grow the sport. That's always an opportunity to grow the sport. And it was interesting to see so much grumbling and so much negativity. But I have to say that I think a lot of the negativity came about because it was so identified with Federer, and so that bled into people's feelings.
But you know what pissed me off. I don't mind you being upset and being angry, but much of the anger that I read and saw places, it was not constructive, and silly. And you're right, it was about Federer, and Federer didn't do anything, and did you all anything but did you all a very huge solid today.
Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to feel like, nobody wants to feel beholden to these guys, to Nadal at all. That's like the big tension.
What Susie mentioned is really important. You only have Nadal for like 2 more years at the very least, this year and probably next year. And this exposed the other generation, the younger generation, to the world. Because
it was a nice model.
No one was
that multi-generational bench was such a nice model. Exactly. And you can imagine that even just sitting there, okay, fine, now they're going to maybe be able to blend, because Fed was like focused on the idea that both teams were going to hang out just with each other to keep that energy going. And I think the camaraderie increased because of that. But now that they're finished, imagine the cross-pollination that can happen, talking about something that you like about the other's game.
Hey, guess what? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Guess who's not such an asshole? Guess who's actually nice? Maybe you should get to know this person. You know what? They're willing to teach you this, that, or the other. I mean, there's also all kinds of conversations that might take place because of this that we'll never know about until careers are over.
Yep.
Players could improve because there's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, because let's be real.
Because when I saw,
but listen, let's be real honest here for a second. Tell me any young player on the tour who doesn't want to be surrounded by Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal.
Girl, you could tell by the people sitting on the bench. Dominic Thiem could not stop staring at I'm just looking around.
I love Dominic Thiem.
And you know what? I love it though.
Because he was getting checked and he didn't have to work so hard. He was getting money.
It does for the fans?
But he was learning.
But you know what it does for tennis fans? It lets us know that these people are human. It shows us a side of them that we don't get to see. Like it's kind of cool, to see Dominic Thiem staring, like literally in awe with the jaw open. You see these pictures of him.
And him stuffing mashed potatoes in his face. Too.
That was great, too. We saw it all. But it's pretty cool to see that happen because that's how we respond as fans. And it's kind of nice to know that the people who are involved are also fans. And they also are a bit starstruck probably, you know, and are like, wow. You could tell that they felt lucky to be a part of this.
Of the team. And I think that's nice. If you can keep that vibe going.
Amazing.
I actually think the multi-generational vibe is really important. And I think it, you know, instead of worrying about super coaches, this is an arena where you can help people stay active and engage in the game. So I always would love, I mean, you know, I'm curious who they man the team with next year. You know, I think it'd be nice to like have some like, you know, South American players up in there. Obviously, the Aussies are always going to be a part of it because it's
probably, and it might be, maybe they might think about maybe we can change the surface on the inside, maybe an indoor clay court.
Yeah, like
no, it's always going to be on hard.
But what if they, you know what would be interesting? What if they said we always have to have a new team?
Yeah, it's nice. Fun. It's just
like no returning players. What if it always has to be new and fresh?
Yeah,
that
would be nice. I think for the next couple of years, I think
you might run out.
Probably going to help bend it. I think Nadal's going to help blend it. But I think, you know, like always add maybe 2 or 3 new people. You're always
maybe a percentage of it has to not be returning.
Yeah,
which is great. You know, so I think it was just a nice. I think it was nice to see.
It was a refreshing change because let's be 100 here. Let's be 100 here. None of y'all bitches was gonna watch any tennis this past 2 weeks. Yeah, we're not going to.
Nope.
I mean, I was gonna try to, but I mean, I wasn't. You weren't
gonna make a great effort.
I wasn't gonna make a great effort. No. So, in the spirit of that, so now let's shift gears. So what we missed last week was Davis Cup.
Oh, just one more thing.
What?
Who knew that Rafa was such a very intense, nervous Nelly when it came to matches? He was literally crawling out of his skin.
Of course, you know
he's like that. He's like that.
He acts with his water bottles.
Oh, yeah, he's also like that for Davis Cup. He's very intense. The thing about it was hilarious, Janina. So Rafa has the opportunity. This is what was going on in the exchange online for you. Rafa has the opportunity to bring it home for Team Europe when he's playing Isner. Now, of course, you know Rafa's like, I can beat this dude. Right. When's the last time Isner beat me? Well, guess what? Isner beats his ass. So now Rafa's like, shit. Federer now has to win this damn thing.
And Federer is an old ass. And Nick always comes to the party.
And who did he play in the end? Federer
and Federer's playing Nick. Now you know Nick gets it up for Federer, so it's not a given. It's not a given. Okay, it's not a given. So of course, the thing that's hilarious is, and also Federer is a touch slow, right? Because if you think about it,
he's old.
Yeah, he's old. But he's also played 2 days in a row. He played the doubles late last night. He played singles the next day. And the other thing for him is that he's also doing other things for this event. Right? It's his event, you know, so he's doing other doubles. So I could tell he's like a touch slow. Dude, the errors in that match. So Federer loses the first set, fine. And he goes up a break in the second. And then proceeds to play the
to get broken. Having got like 2 game points, right? Yeah, like 2 game points. It was just like
2015. Oh. He's up 2015, and these weird ass errors came out of nowhere. You know, one of those things where you're like, "Wow, that's shankalicious."
I had to scream into my blanket on my couch because I was just nasty.
And so all you can see is Rafa on the side court, Rafa on the sidelines watching Federer throw this match in the toilet.
He got to experience what it's like to be a true Fed fan, huh?
Yes,
right. But he's over there. Like, it's not doing the most.
It's not like control anymore. It's like you have to sit there and watch Federer, and he's like, "Fuck this shit." Federer needs to get aggressive because it was true. Federer was not going for his shots. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if the court wasn't allowing it.
But I'm like, "Boo, you're doing the most. You're doing too much, Rafa. Sit down because you had it on your racket." Okay?
I know. Reels is all over this, but I'm like, he didn't really have it on his racket because both Federer and Rafa, I think, were a touch slow. I think there was some problem in terms of, I don't know. I think the European might have put the teams together a little funky. I don't know if it should have all come down to these two. at the end.
They had no doubles. As Susie pointed out, they had no doubles.
But wasn't it always going to come down to Roger and Rafa? No matter what team you throw together, isn't it always?
Pretty much. But you
know what? You know what I love about
you could have utilized somebody better.
Who?
But team is poor indoors. Team is poor indoors. And Chilich is not great. No, Chilich didn't do well.
As Susie points out, those boys can't volley for nothing.
Yeah, they didn't have the young boys. Yeah, they were there. I thought
those American
Shapovalov
boys were making them do that.
I thought Shapovalov would probably pair well in a doubles team. Oh no, but that's world. Oops. Yeah, no, it was difficult. They didn't have a good double.
His last name is Russian, but he's playing for talented Canadian. But I think the European team, they had what I thought was interesting, I think, for everybody who participated on the men, homework and realize there are things in their games they need to work on.
For sure.
Because the American world team got a lot closer than they really needed to be.
I don't think so. I mean, if you think of who's there, I mean, in a normal setting where you're not playing back to back, I don't think Rafa's losing to Isner quite that poorly.
But I was interested. The European boys were expending more emotional energy than the world team. The world team was just shaking off a bad loss, and because I would have been demoralized after yesterday. They were 9-3.
But you know what they realized? What they did, Janina, is each day the point value for the matches increased. Yes. So even if you lost day 1 and day 2, come day 3, all the matches are worth 3 points. So if you get
13 wins.
Yeah, if you get paired up well, if you get a better, that's my problem with interestingly enough, they never had Query play Rafa, right? Query feels comfortable playing Rafa, but Query played Fed, and Fed took care of Query there was no problem.
But here's the problem today. The Team Europe had to put their team down first. That was the difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the world team came into. They had the world team had the advantage. So they saw the lineup for the European team, and then they're like,
okay, let's see who I match with.
Feel today. and they did really well. I mean, they did
could have won because if Nick had beaten Federer, you're right. The doubles for world would have been
was done. It would have been a mess because the world team had. The world team could throw a stone and pick anybody, and they had a doubles team together. They weren't going to send back out Rafa and Raja because they were exhausted. His load being emotionally crazy.
Well, I think we've given a lot to Laver, so let's make sure we give some other stuff.
Move on to the ladies. So I must say I did watch women's tennis this weekend.
Woohoo!
Give a shout out.
What did you see?
To Caroline Wozniacki, because homegirl, if you had lost a 7th final.
She said, did you love her tweet or what? 7 times the charm or whatever she said.
Exactly. I mean, look.
Who did she play in the final, though?
She played Pav, but that wasn't really the match. Let me tell you something. She handled, you came to, where were they?
Didn't she?
How did that happen?
Well,
Mugs, listen to me. It's Reels. It's all Reels. Reels is responsible for Mugaroots' fashion upgrade.
Wait, I thought we were talking about her back. I thought we were talking about Mugs getting bageled. That's what I was talking about.
Before we get to the bagel section, we got to talk about Mugs stepping up that fashion.
No. Okay, wait. I'm so disappointed in you because I thought she looked like a female fucking bull tamer. I didn't like it at all. I don't know why you thought she looked good. She looks
no. Wait. In the team picture?
Wait.
With the silver shoes? Is that what you're talking about?
Wait, you're talking about the #1 photo shoot, right? Her #1 photo shoot in the dress.
Janina.
But I remember Reels commenting on Twitter that she stepped up her game and she looked good. I'm like, are we looking at the same thing? She looks stupid.
Let me just quote our friend in comments. Shut your home out, okay? Don't you be dragging Mugs for this mess. Mug looks really good.
For her. She looked good. She looked good for her. There's a difference.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. I thought she looked really. I mean, like, and compared to the rest of the girls in those pictures.
Oh no! Stop! What were you looking at? Look, she looked silly. She does not know how to dress her body appropriately. I understand that tennis players wear kind of wonky shoes that maybe don't necessarily go with an outfit because they don't want to show the tan lines on their feet. I can appreciate that. Her shoes almost worked, but silver metallic shoes with like a ruffle. No. That was like Sex in the City, 1996.
I thought she looked fine, but you know what? We disagree. You're a woman.
No, her dress, the black dress with like the white stitching or whatever it looked like a Matador's outfit. It really truly did. And I was like, this looks like now. Well, you know what? I thought this is a local pageant festival dress, and it's not okay. I don't know why you liked
this. This is national cultural dress. Mm-hmm. I liked it because she usually wear denim and denim, so whatever. But she played Muggs, and Carol played Muggs in the semifinal, and I actually thought that Muggs would have come out to the party, but Muggs was just like, I'm not here.
Was she tired? What happened? Like, I really thought, like, I was surprised by that scoreline. I mean, obviously, Carol was returning like a beast. I was assuming
Carol was definitely returning like a beast, and she was looked like she didn't have it. It looked like she had Muguruza's game where all of her shots were on. Carol wasn't afraid to take on the full hand. She wasn't afraid of anything. Muggs was making a lot of crazy errors, and she kept calling. And this was the other thing I noticed when I just decided to go back to Laver Cup, is that when Sam came down, Sam was trying to talk to her, and again, the woman ladies are barely ever engaged when the coach is there. So I don't know why you're bringing him down. She was just like, water.
They're just listening.
They're just listening. You don't
yeah,
know. But try not to give anything away. That's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay.
You don't know what's. Yeah, it's not clear.
I don't know. I don't find that it's sort of like. I mean, I'm not saying anything about the.
What do you want? What do you want from that?
Yeah,
you want them to be like Simona and argue on the sideline,
talking. No, I think somebody was just listening.
They have a limited amount of time. They ask a question or whatever, and the coach comes down and the coach talks. I mean, like, that's what you do. That's what happens in every sport. You don't see coaches on the sideline in football or basketball or whatever, and then every player's like, no, but, like, that doesn't work. There's not time for that. What do you want?
Well, because clearly, I mean, my thing is just that clearly they had a game plan, at least I hope so, and the game plan wasn't working, so say something different. But anyway, whatever, Muggs became old Muggs. Muggs became the Muggs that was always losing matches back in the day.
It wasn't that long ago. You say back on the day, but it was only last year. It wasn't that long ago.
It was only this year. We've been waiting for this. I think we might have to get over the idea that Muggs is going to suddenly become this consistent winner.
She's not.
She's going to do well, and when she's in it, she's going to be fearless, and then someday she's just not going to be on her game.
She roll up into number one because others failed. She didn't climb her way up.
You know how I feel about that. You know how she did fight though. She fought harder than some people that got there. Hello, Carolina Pliskova. I'm talking to you, but she fought. I mean, she won 2 majors. What else? What do you want? I mean, we want to see that, right? But at the same time, you're right. She won by default. She got that number 1 slap by default because somebody else lost, and listen, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I'm just not a fan of that. I kind of wish the rankings would pause when that's the scenario. I know that's unrealistic and it's never going to happen. I know. I don't need anybody telling me that I'm being silly. I'm just saying, in my wish list of way things worked, I wish you had to win it.
Well, yeah, to get the scores, but yeah, it's to get the point. But you know what? I mean, it's fine. I think it gave Muggs, it gives like Caroline Wozniacki a great opportunity to show why she was at the top of the game for a long time, and she finally got herself a damn title.
And wow, this was her 26th title, guys. 26. That's pretty fucking amazing.
I know, and also, you know what?
I hate her, and I'm praising her.
10 straight years, I guess, apparently, of getting a title on tour. The only other person who's done that are the top 3 ladies you would expect: Venus, Serena, and Sharapova.
Yeah, I mean she has earned her space
for sure.
I just don't like her game.
Yeah, for sure.
The other good match was that Pavs actually played pretty well because she halted Angie's little comeback, I guess. If you can say, because Angie
comeback.
Why are we calling it a comeback? Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah. It's a crawling back.
Well, you know, well, let's just say Kerber was stringing some wins together, okay? So, and then Pavs was
really
just like,
sad about this. Like, seriously, Kerber was world #1 for quite some time. She gets some majors under her belt, and she just has this major fall. And now she strings some wins together, and she shows us a shadow of her earlier self, and we're praising it. Like, why?
Well, I mean, listen, I think for me, it's not so much about a shadow. I just think it would be, listen, I don't know if Angie's ever going to get back to #1, but you know, the way things are, anything is possible. I just think it would be good for Angie to just be performing at a level that she's capable of performing.
Right.
When
she's
not,
not,
I like when she was chubby and
yeah,
when chubby Angie,
yeah, and not having all the pressure. You know, I'm not
I'm ever going to call her chubby.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Ever calling her chubby. She's definitely more fit than she used to be, but I don't know that I would put her in the category of chubby. Can I please be that chubby?
I don't mean chubby. I don't mean chubby that she was actually chubby. I just meant in the sense that when she was a little bit heavier, if I can say that, she was much more hungry and she was more patient and she was willing to work over points and she was much more focused. She would have vultured Tokyo, Angie.
She was our queen vulture.
Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't have let Pavs run her through. But Pavs
that was great.
Has definitely in shape because
Pavlyuchenko's no slouch though. I mean, like,
yeah, she's solid.
It's true.
I mean, she did get to what? Did she get to the quarters? Did she get to the quarters of the Australian Open?
What happened to Kiki? Hello,
Kiki's fallen off
the face of the earth.
I think Kiki's like, you know, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's been like battling with injuries and it's just kind of messed up her game or what, but Kiki is not doing well. Although she did, I know she's
but also let me just say that the media is complicit and low-key dragging Kiki because she spoke out about Maria.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's just the media. That's just the media.
Some of the headlines I'm reading is just like, oh God, that is, and coming from the WT itself. Not like from Too Big Blogger or some bit like that. This is coming from the WTA website itself. It's a little much disgusting.
Well, we know how that works.
Well, you know, you can't critique, you can't critique your cash cow. So there you go.
I have lots of critiques. Where should I begin?
Just go back a little bit in terms of Angie. Maybe we're expecting too much from Angie and Muggs. Maybe we're always like, this expectation.
No. I have no expectations. I have no expectations of them. I like the fact that some days you get up and Angie is shit, and some days you get up Muggs is shit. I think the idea, though, of constantly seeking consistency from them needs to stop. That's not the type of players they are. Some players are consistent players. That's who they are.
Like those Caroline Wozniacki.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Those two players should not be defined by consistency. You should just look at what they're doing and go, oh, today's the day that real mean Muggs is showing up. Oh, today's that other one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we
should treat them manly Wawrinka.
We should treat them like they deserve, which is like
that.
Where they when they're on and then go, oh, this is the day they're off.
Yeah. I mean, because as much as I like to drag Caroline Wozniacki, she's consistent. She may have lost 6 finals, but she was in the final.
She's consistently in 6 finals.
always a boring threat.
So she claimed Japan. She claimed Tokyo, but that Tokyo was just this week. Did anything happen last week?
I have no idea.
I count on Reels, who promised us that he watch all the women's matches, but I don't see any.
He's such a liar.
I think we had
Van Oudvank won that.
Oh,
yes.
And another Tokyo match last week with Diaz came from the qualifiers.
That was great. That was great.
I think they were like 125. They were like 125 tournament.
Yeah, that was great for Diaz. Diaz came all the way. That was her very first title. I'm very happy for her. Serena Diaz. Good for her. And then I think
tournament in Seoul. Oh, I did watch this one. Ostapenko. Look,
that was this past week. Yeah.
Love with Ostapenko in some crazy way. This woman is crazy. She's like
perfect.
Her court is so hilarious. She's just like, I'm not feeling this right now. For this, she has this very, like, you can tell what's going on in her mind, and it directly affects her tennis. But she did very well to get her second title ever on tour, because the first title was definitely French Open. So this is really good, backing up that French Open success. She played a really solid, and I'm surprised that the girl Habibi from Brazil, her dad, was able to get a set from her, but she righted her ship and it was really good. So I'm excited about.
I saw her in Cincy. I think I saw her play a little bit in Cincy.
You saw who?
Her opponent, the Brazilian. Mm-hmm. She's solid. She could be solid. She could be good. So I'm happy. That's good for her that she was able to steal. What, she stole a set?
I don't know.
In China, Guangzhou, I guess they're in China because they're gonna go to Wuhan tomorrow. Shui Zhang was able to claim a title, so that's pretty good for the home crowd. She beat Alexandra Krunic.
Oh, Krunic still hopping around.
Yeah, still hopping around, trying to make some way. On the men's side, and Fonini had a title, and
he lost. He was in the final.
He lost. He had a title in his hand, and he lost it. Well, we had Davis Cup last week. So there was no ATP tournament last week. So it was just so Belgium versus France, I think.
Oh my gosh, the complete turnaround. No, it was Belgium versus Australia. Yeah. And who picked the Belgians for beating the Australians?
Nobody.
Nobody picked that. That was fantastic. It was you know what? Give it up. I mean, again, this is what I mean. Like, Davis Cup is not always my cup of tea. But it was great.
What was that?
I don't know what that was. It was great. It was really exciting. I watched Davis Cup. I watched the Belgian. I watched
So this was this wasn't the title.
No, it was the semis. It was the semis. And
so who's in the final now?
The finals are the Frenchies versus the Belgians.
Wow.
The Frenchies get another chance.
If the French can't pull through this time, they all need to fucking retire.
But you know what, though? Honestly, it's not a gimme, because Steve Darcis and Goffin, they know how to bring it.
No,
they know how to bring it.
Lucas
has a stronger team.
Not solid.
Lucas Puig's not solid. And you know what? Sanga lost this week. Okay? Who did he lose? I mean, Struff, I think it was. He lost to Struff. Sanga is, they're smart though.
On paper.
French, but you know what?
The strongest team. They need to fucking all bring it at the same time.
But you know what's good about it?
Just be Goffin in
They're going to have it in the same. They're going to have it in the same arena that they had the Davis Cup final with Swiss. But this time around, they're going to fucking do hard court and not clay. Like, who takes clay tournaments when you're playing Federer?
Dumbass. Fucking dumbass cocksuckers. That's who. I mean, like, the planning is so poor sometimes with Davis Cup. It really is. The only time.
Hold up. Suckers. You're saying shit about dumbasses, but not about cocksuckers, okay?
Okay, fine. But like, the only time, honestly, in recent history, I'm thinking the only time that it has worked that a team that shouldn't chose a clay court and they won was the U.S. versus Swiss tie.
Switzerland, yes. When
it doesn't happen.
Lost,
yeah, so like, play to your strengths, plan for that. Don't try to throw in some stupid surprise and go, well, maybe if we do this, it'll throw them off. Like, really, come on, people.
It's smart. Yeah, it's so actually.
Roger Federer was basically, I guess, because Nadal has been in the picture. People forget that Roger Federer was basically the number 2 clay court player for a very long time.
No, I mean he was solid in it, but that was the point. The point was that was a weird pick. It was a weird pick.
The U.S. got to pick the surface in a million years. They should never pick clay, and they did, and it was just foul.
So I mean, although it happened in Switzerland, so maybe the Swiss picked clay, but I don't know what happened, but it worked out for their benefit.
Was that how it was?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was in Switzerland.
Well, it was weird clay.
Remember? It was
really weird clay.
It was patchy, and I guess it wasn't
patchy.
Like
it was full of pivots.
So it was actually more like playing on hard.
It was weird. It was just really weird.
Actually, remember, John Isner says clay gives him more time.
Yes. Yes. You know what? He says over and over again, I like clay. He says it all the time. So, like, hello.
But you know what was interesting? I am watching when I was watching Laver Cup, I was just like, only Nick, if I'm not mistaken, only Nick has done really well at a major here, and most of you boys has been around Sam. I was like, John Isner, Sarah, if you don't barely get past the third round.
Let's not even go there. So what else is going on? We have some baby news. We have some
I think there's some non-tennis news while we were away. Non-tennis news. We've got the Laver Cup, Davis Cup covered. And then personal news was Serena.
Let me just say
What?
Serena. I just want to score line, but it doesn't matter.
What was the scoreline? What?
I was just gonna tell you that in Mitts, they wanted to get mad, but what's his name? Benoit Paire lost to No. Fonini lost to Duma. Benoit Paire lost to Gogowski, I think.
Oh yeah.
Who the fuck is that?
The German player, I believe it is. Yeah,
German player, I guess, with Polish heritage.
I think he had like a breakout at maybe the French a couple of years ago. Peter, I think it was his name, right? Did Peter Korlowski?
Speaking of Germans, did Angela Merkel win?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did win.
Okay, good.
She won, but like I guess the far right party got too many percentages for people, so they were protest about that. They came in third.
All your
third
was
was too much.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk babies.
The baby news.
Let's talk babies.
So
Serena had a baby.
Had her baby.
I want everyone to know, because you all know how much I love putting Tony out there. This motherfucker was a hot mess. He
was he really?
Yes, he was. Tony, I can't not do this to you. He's like, nothing else matters. Serena's in labor. You know, like I've got this group chat going with Game of Thrones fans that includes myself and Tony and Maya and O and Shawnee. And we're talking Game of Thrones. And sometimes there's a little tennis in there. And Tony's like, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. We're having a baby. I'm going to be a dad.
I think Alexis might have a.
I'm like the distant relative going, sure, that's nice. I've seen a lot of baby things come across my timeline. You know, it's not my thing. I'm not even a baby person. So
I love Tony the best. I love him the best. I do. When it comes to Serena, this motherfucker's eyes are just
good for him.
Great. It's so incredibly sweet. I do appreciate it. He is a true fangirl.
I think everyone is. I'm surprised by how much Serena's baby
genuinely
stuff comes across my timeline.
Oh my God.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
It's adorable. So yeah, Serena had a baby.
Very beautiful baby.
A beautiful little girl who, you know, it's interesting. She named her a junior.
Yeah, which everybody's like doesn't make sense because a junior usually involves the full name of the person, but you know, do you?
It does, but you know, yeah.
No.
Usually. Well, yeah, the junior is exactly the same name, which is why it's a junior.
Of the father.
Not the full. I just the first and the second name.
But the junior,
first name and the last name.
Tell me another junior who is a female. It doesn't work that way because the male carries on the line of the family name in most cultures, including hers. So it's interesting that, you know, she chose to go that route. Good for her. Little baby girl, Alexis.
Well, let's be happy she didn't name her like an apple or a peach or like plum rose.
Think
or like
northwest, south.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, or like gray or black or some color.
I think that they've got their media game tight. She has an Instagram.
Yes.
But there's an Instagram feed.
Oh,
she introduced it online. I think this was your open question, Janina. Was it going to be? Were we going to find out about this baby through some technological way? And I guess you were, right? It was announced on Instagram.
Was it Instagram? It was Instagram, right?
It was Instagram.
Yeah, and she had this thing. I love is that she's controlling the information. That all listening celebrities should do when it comes to these type of things. You know, you need to control your business is your business, and when you're trying to put so much of yourself out there.
Apparently, she spent Apparently, she spent 6 days in the hospital, and there were some complications, of which we do not know what they were. I am waiting for the nurse to get offered enough money to sell that story, because you know it's coming, right? She's going to get enough. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen.
Mhm.
She's going to get enough money to pay for the HIPAA violation that she will get for talking about it, and she is going to sing like a bird. Wait for it. You heard it here first.
Oh no, I hope not.
You know damn well it's coming. It's coming.
Serena might just sell her own story.
I don't know.
She may sell her own story. She may tell her own story, but everybody.
Janina?
I love it. Everyone's opting out today, except moi.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, people have complications having babies all the time. I had my own. It's very typical. And Tony kept telling me, something's not right. I'm worried. I'm like, why are you worried? And, he's just like, and then, of course, when it was all said and done, and she, wrote that lovely little piece, and she said 6 days in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. He's like, see, I told you I had reason to be worried. And I'm like, this is common. It is. I mean, it is. Childbirth is a miracle. And it's complicated, and things go wrong all the time,
Actually, funny enough, they've just been reporting what they've noticed in America, for most places, is that when childbirth happens, doctors spend more time thinking about the baby and forgetting the mother.
Well,
and in America, it has one of the highest maternity mortality rate, I guess, is a very high.
African Americans.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. This is my guess, because I'm assuming that at some point Serena probably will tell the story. When she's ready, she'll probably talk about it. And my guess is going to be, I'm actually surprised that my initial reaction was she went into labor and the baby just didn't want to come out. But which would be typical, because apparently she had an emergency cesarean. However, I find it odd as a person who has A, given birth, and B, worked in OB, that someone would be allowed to go that many days. Like, if you're in active labor and you're not actually giving birth, you're not going 6 days without them giving you a cesarean, because that's not good for you or the baby, to put your body and the baby through that stress. So this is something happened in between there. There was probably, complications in a pregnancy can mean so many things. Like, maybe her blood pressure was too high or something. Or,
right.
But then also, isn't she a person that has to take all these medications just to fly now, given what happened to her? So I would assume
maybe, but however, yeah, but there's also a good chance that when you're pregnant, you're not taking those type of drugs because you don't want them to, go into the baby's bloodstream. But it really wasn't that big of a deal. That's just my guess. Because
I'm not spending a lot of time.
If it was a true emergent situation, she would have not spent 6 days in the hospital being pregnant. Now, if she went to the hospital, delivered before we think about it or before we know about it, and there were some complications with the baby, it probably still wasn't a big deal because they'd have kept that baby longer than 6 days. So, it probably wasn't a big deal. And congratulations, at the end of the day, it seems like she has a healthy baby girl. Seems like she's doing well. And everybody's
I
like,
love the letter she wrote to her mother.
And then she writes the letter, right? The letter.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing. She's
the letter was amazing. Okay, so when you started reading the letter, what did you think? Because I'm reading the letter and I'm almost initially thinking that she is writing a letter that was, how do I want to say it? From the baby to her, even though it wasn't titled that way, but just as I'm reading it, I didn't feel like it was Serena talking to her mother. I wasn't sure because I felt like things were flip-flopping a little bit. And I'm like, is she trying to say this is what I want to be? This is what I would want to write and hope that you would say about me from the perspective of her child as she gets older and grows. And then at the end, it's clear that she's, you know, writing a letter to her mother. But the timing of that letter, I think, was bigger than the letter. That letter came out when...
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah.
That
because
letter
I thought it was
was a
kind of like
response.
great.
That letter was a response to the
something
to the book.
Bullshit. Yeah, exactly. Because to me, it's like, Serena, that's a brand spanking new mother. Okay, you're just like, so a lot more you gotta learn. Trust me. 6 days into it, like 3 weeks, is not gonna be the whole depth and scope of being a parent. We gotta worry about this child like constantly, etc. down to your life. But I thought it was rather pointed, because when I was reading the letter, I was just like, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing about, or seeing, like, you know, how can you sit through all of this mess and madness about your children day out, you know, like, and just pointless bullshit. Like, at this point, that these girls, these women should not have to hear this kind of thing, and they made this out of like quoting this kind of madness constantly.
You know what I loved the
like,
best?
really,
you know what I loved the best out of that
the
letter?
drug reference.
Yes. No, I work hard. This is what bodies look like that work hard, that put in the work day in and day out. And I would never put something else extra. You know, like, I wouldn't do that. I was like, boom. Because it's, you know, to tie it all in, it's really interesting that Maria writes this book that's supposed to be, from what I understand, haven't read it. Read it. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of want to read it. That there's so much Serena in it.
Actually, there isn't.
Is that just what caught the attention of the folks who read it? Is that what
it's just what comes across in the press release?
Because I listened to
that's what's gonna get the most noise.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, from what I've gathered from everyone, it's the only thing that's really interesting. Because everything else, everything else that I've heard people talk about the rest of the book, be very confusing and back and forth, and nothing gets really resolved in full explanation. I guess she talks her way up to the 2004 Wimbledon, because that's where like an entity, and everything else from there sort of like got lost and flip-flopped and whatever. But it wasn't even so much so the body situation, which I know was coming, which we had already knew before the book was actually published, because it already come out.
Sure.
What I thought was interesting about said book was what I read from Ben, though of course he didn't frame it properly, is what she was talking about initially, and how she and her father basically sort of like, oh, I'm not going to stand up and cheer for her. I am not going to pretend like I want to see her. I'm going to go in some back shed and peep through some hole to watch
That was
Serena.
weird. That was weird.
That was very weird. And I don't think, I'm just like,
you know what, though?
This isn't normal, right?
Well, you know what? That's what I was. No, hold on. That's what I was just gonna say. I wonder if that is normal. I wonder if it is normal for someone who is pegged as like the next big thing and this child prodigy, and you don't want to be compared to this person because they already exist in this space where, you know, you want to watch them, you want to appreciate them, you want to maybe learn from what they're doing, but you don't want to be the person out there cheering them on, because then do you become a David Goffin, Roger Federer figure?
No. Actually, from what I gathered, oh my God, I forgot the podcast. I really did forget the podcast, but I believe it was Nigel was on the podcast, and he mentioned that when she wasn't really that highly featured at Nick Balateria's academy to begin with. It was there for a bit, and then Nick sort of like wasn't paying attention to it, if I understood it correctly. And so, but what I thought was crazy is the father instigated. Well, what she implies is that the father, from Ben's article, is that the father instigated this very much hateful resentment, though she wasn't a legitimate champion, as if what people were clamoring around wasn't correct or like, you know, like it wasn't worthy. I thought it was very weird. And then it just sort of like when it turned into the body issue thing that she was mentioning, and as it continued and whatever, it was just like, y'all have a very weird obsession with Serena. Why? Serena's just been kicking your ass. Serena has a better brand of tennis, and maybe if you let that iteration go, maybe you might learn a couple of things and be able to do something. Because that article was very disturbing. He described what's happening in the book.
Well, you know, I didn't read it right.
But it was very weird. Like, and even like there was a time when Serena came into the room and everyone was standing and cheering, and Maria was just like, "Nope, I'm not getting up. I refuse to get up. I told myself I'm not going to stand up to show her."
But it was
But
interesting
girl,
that
it's
she
not
said,
that
I
serious.
wanted to. Like, my body wanted to, but I had to fight it.
Right. It's just
It was
like,
weird.
let it go. It's not that serious, girl. Like this losing legacy that you guys think you're right, but it's no. Even if you beat Serena one time after this, it's pointless. It's already done and dusted, and whatever the case, I mean, it's gone too far now.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I have zero to
Oh, no.
contribute because I haven't been paying any attention to the Maria
Well,
book.
that's why you're so
Or-
smart. That's fine. Well,
Yeah,
like I said,
no, I
like,
just I like, you know, my personal pet thing. It has nothing to do with Sharapova, but it's just I don't really believe in athletes who pen
speak before their
books.
careers are over.
Yeah, it's like you're
Yeah.
too. I can't trust what you're gonna say. I feel like I'm gonna know more
You're too
about
guarded.
what's yeah, like you're too guarded. You're still. I mean, and for somebody who's as invested in her brand as Sharapova, to my mind, it's like this isn't the time for her to write a story where I'm gonna find out anything.
Oh, and of course, there was nothing in the book that was sensational. There was, of course, nobody mentioned anything interesting on your perspective on the whole Meldonium doping situation, of course. So to me, this book is trash. It's not worth the time and effort.
I mean, I'm not going to dismiss it like that. I haven't read it. I don't know. I'm a book lover, so I'm not going to dismiss a book I have not read. But I'm not interested in a book that's written in the middle of your career. 2-3 years from now, when things have fallen
all the
out,
dirt. Yeah.
you know what I mean. Give me the
Probably.
dirt. 5 years.
It's just an attitude around it that I despise. That
is what it. I mean, it is. Listen, that's what was going to happen in the tour, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the book isn't. I don't know whether the book is well written or not. Traditionally, these things are not. I mean, you know, it's hard to know. Agassiz is still my favorite in terms of, and many people critique that book and say it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, but I don't mind.
It has a lot of stuff in it. Agassiz' book has a lot of stuff
enough for you.
No, listen, a tennis fan should read that book because you know what?
If you really want to read a book,
why you should read it.
Yeah,
you want to read a book about a tennis player's life and shit that they go through that has everything in it. Everything from the familial pressure to relationships to the celebrity aspect to doping. Read Agassiz' book. And then compare it to what's going on now. Think about
that's more interesting.
Yes.
So if you write a book about yourself and you're retired from tennis, I'm more likely to read it than if you're writing it while you're still playing, because I don't see what the point of doing.
I own Rafa's book. I own Rafa's book. I haven't read it. You know why? Because you're right, Andreen. It doesn't mean anything right now.
Yeah, it's too early. Like even the book of that somebody wrote about Djokovic accomplishing, you know, the calendar slam. It was like, I was like, okay, all right. I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like we do so
in 10
much
years.
Talk. Yeah, we do so much talk about what people's legacies are in the moment in tennis. Almost
when it's not even complete.
It's not even
examine the substance.
Yeah, it's not done yet.
Yeah.
Because you know,
can we speak on Novak for a minute?
Yeah. What about Novak?
Where the fuck is he? Is he coming back? Has he been completely silent? Have we seen any pictures of him practicing?
No pictures of him practicing, but he did like a picture of Rafa and Fed sitting around talking about their doubles on his Instagram.
So had he been healthy and ready to play, he would have been a part of Team Europe? Or no?
Assuming,
Could you imagine?
But you know, again, too many singles players on the team.
I wanted that. I would have wanted that. But I want. People are excited about Fedal doubles which is fine, you know, because they've been rivals for so long.
You know who I thought would have been interesting?
But the juicy rivalry is Federer for me. It's Fed Nole. That has more tension. So you know for them to be on the same side,
yes, I want to see. But here's the other thing. I want to see them on the same side because Novak over and over and over again has played spoiler to both Roger and Rafa, and we know that there's not a lot of love lost between Roger and Nole. Exactly. We know that. So I would love to see them play.
Y'all know Rafa don't like Novak. He doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I don't follow that closely. I have no idea. But being a Federer
they don't get to seem that way. But I mean,
I want to see that. I want to see them play Laver Cup together next year. I want to see them.
Next year, I would love it.
Laver Cup.
And you know what else I want to see? Well, but here's part of the best part of that whole thing. When Nole fam,
I don't care about Murray.
Fuck Murray. Fuck Murray.
Murray's fine. Well, you can put him on the world team. Put him on the world team.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
What happened? Get along really fast with that crew.
Listen, what happens on tennis Twitter when Novak, Roger, and Rafa are all on the same team? I want to see that shit.
That's crazy. But I don't know if all of that's possible, but I would love it. I'd love to see. That was my first question. After having seen Rafa and Fed play, I was just like, I really need to see Fed play Nole now.
But see, it's not a secret. It's not a secret that Roger and Rafa have a relationship and that they seem pretty friendly. Like we've known that for a long time.
We know that.
So I totally want Novak in the mix there. I feel like he's off on the side.
He would have enjoyed it. I think
he would have enjoyed it. But how would Roger and Rafa respond? I kind of feel like Novak would have been on the side eating potatoes with Dominic.
He probably would have looked like Burditch, but I
know what?
Okay, so did Burditch age like 10 years? Does he look really old right now?
He looks really old. I think he lost some weight.
His legs look fine though. Janina, don't worry. His legs, they look good, girl.
They're amazing.
His legs look good.
I don't know if it's the longer hair and that he has to comb it like to style it. Yeah,
and that woman is probably spending more than she's bringing in. So that's probably what it is.
That is so sexist. Why are you assuming that?
It is.
She could have a full-on career.
She makes a lot of money on her own. She's a model.
What, traveling around the world with him?
She's a supermodel. No.
Interesting. You know what was interesting about this week as well is that I barely saw the women. I just barely glimpsed Merca in the stand. I was just like, is Merca there?
Oh, was she there?
But she was there. She was, but I think she decided to be background. You know what I mean? Merca knows how.
Yeah, like because at one point someone asked on Twitter, where are the women? Because it was just men everywhere. Every picture was just a guy.
I know, and everybody brought their wives or their girlfriends or whatever. But I think everybody, was just like, this is not what it's about. It was about the team. It was about showing the bench.
It's not making it into a celebrity-ish event, like Susie pointed out, like, where the wives and the hosting the wives, whatever. It was going to be treated like an actual tournament. That's fair enough.
So, in all in all, that was fun. Thank you, Susie.
It was fun. It was fantastic to have Susie. It's always good. So for us, the possibility of Chicago is on the schedule. It just depends on who's there. I just booked the hotel. I didn't book everything.
We can always cancel a hotel. Absolutely.
You can always cancel a hotel.
I just got
afterwards, message me. Tell me fuck that. Not tell me where you are. I'm gonna stay with you. We'll just share.
Yeah, so
I'm thinking, tell me where you are so I can book you. But no.
There it is.
So you know what I think, right? I think sometime in my head, crazy thing that I think Nadal goes up to Federer a lot of times to just troll. Is in reality, Novak really wants to be Roger's friend.
Be a part of that brotherhood.
I don't really like him, and I think that's not the issue.
Who doesn't really like what?
I think he's saying that Rafa knows that Nole wants to be in on that friendship, but he's not. And so Rafa plays up his friendship with Roger because Nole really is an outsider with the two of them.
And it's trolling.
Listen, that is some petty shit. Like, get out of my sandbox. But hey, whatever.
I mean,
They're human and they are capable of being petty just like anybody else.
Listen, I'd be petty too. I love the whole petty aspect of it. But
let's wrap it up. All right. So we'll try to be back next week. What's going on next week? Anything we have to look forward to?
Well, we have Wuhan, which is a big tournament for the women.
Which is like the grass for us. Is Venus playing Wuhan?
We need to do a vulture show.
I don't think so. I don't think she's playing Wuhan. And I think we have Shenzhen, which usually would have Nole, but he's not here around.
So Beijing. Nole always goes to Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he.
Oh yeah, Beijing is like this. Like, yeah, in October.
But Federer is going to be in Shanghai. But I think for next week it's just a few tournaments. No, not all.
Yeah,
so
and Shanghai.
If it's Shenzhen, Shenzhen for
I cannot keep up with the Asian swing.
Dominic Thiem and Dominic Thiem is going to that tournament, and I think also Sasha is going to that as well.
Oh, cool!
Yeah,
should be fun. Let me just say, Shanghai be stepping up its Twitter game as always. Shanghai put out a tweet saying, the only place you're gonna see Raja in Asia this time around is this scary.
Did they?
Shanghai.
Federer's already mentioned that he's going to Shanghai. He's put a primacy on Shanghai and
Andrew, get on a plane and get your ass over there.
You know, I'd love to go back to Shanghai, but
I know
if we're gonna do this Chicago thing, I mean, you know what? We have to do it, right? It's too close.
It's too close to not do it. You are right. It is too close.
You can visit your favorite tennis inside out person out there. I think that's
right. I'm sure she'll be there. Yeah, she lives right outside of Chicago, Val. So I'm sure she'll be there. Yeah, September should be good. You know what? I love Chicago. I really do. I've only been there once, but I loved it, and we should
definitely try to make it happen, and we should definitely try to have like a real tennis fans experience there. Just because it's a thing. We're gonna try to make it happen.
Listen, listeners. What we're gonna do is start a GoFundMe so that you can send us all to Chicago next year. And you know what? If it flops, it fucking flops. But we're gonna do it. Watch me set that shit.
Look at you.
Hey, every other podcast can do it. Why can't we? Send us to Chicago.
Oh, and watch us have fun.
Everybody's going to be there, right?
You want coverage? We'll give you coverage like nobody else.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you,
ladies. It's been great to get back together with you two. We've missed each other.
You guys. Yeah.
I know.
Janina has been like working hard. It's really annoying.
I know.
She don't
want to stay now, right?
I am.
She got a family and work.
I'm a soccer mom. I finally found out what that means.
I keep telling her. I keep people. Fans, could you encourage Janina to get her child to play piano?
Okay, but you know what? I seriously have to go. And you know what's so sad about it? So I had a choice. My friend texts me and she's like, I was like, I want to go see a movie. She texted me. She's like, do you want to see Kingsman 2 or Battle of the Sexes? And then my response, which is totally inappropriate, I was like, we should probably support sexes, but I really want to see hot guys. And so she's like, okay, Kingsman it is.
Yeah. I'm not excited about that movie at all. I just don't know what it is. But you know what?
I've never heard of it. But hey, tell me about it tomorrow.
But mostly it's because that Oscar Academy Award winner Emma Stone is in there. Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of her acting, so I'm sure I'll catch it on the repeat though. As a tennis person, I need to support Billie Jean's movie, so I'm sure I'll watch it on TV. There you go.
Ciao.
Good night, folks. And thanks again, Susie, for being on our podcast. We really appreciate being here. You give us such amazing and wonderful insight. And fans, don't forget to comment and rate us on iTunes so that we can get big and get actual sponsors on the show. You don't have to give us any money on GoFundMe. You can help us make our own money.
Oh, Lord, you're a mess.
And those who are stealing, can't give us credit. Please give us a check. Please.
No. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.